Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'd like to welcome you to the September 1st, 2009 meeting of the Board of Supervisors. You guys are trained like Pavlov's dogs. But, okay, would you all rise and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'd like to do a little sound check here this morning. Can everybody hear me adequately? A little louder? Okay. Supervisor, when you speak closely to your microphone this morning, please. I'd like to point out that we have Mr. David Sirius sitting in with us this morning as County Counsel instead of Mr. Jones. So, welcome, David. We have the following announcements. A closed session was held pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, a conference with labor negotiator, Director of Human Resources and Risk Management, regarding the Service Employees International Union 1021 SEIU, resulting in nothing to report. That was a meeting last week. And also last week, a closed session was held pursuant to Government Code 54956.9, a conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation. One case, this was a Darrell S. Allen versus the County of Calaveras, resulting in nothing to report. Incidentally, that case number is CV35840. And then a closed session was held pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9C, a conference with legal counsel. This is regarding anticipated litigation or the initiation of litigation. One case resulting in nothing to report. And then finally, a closed session was held pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9. This was also a conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation. Two cases, Michael Nemi and Michelle Nemi versus the County of Calaveras. This is Calaveras case number CV35775. Michael Nemi and Michelle Nemi versus Calaveras County, and this closed session resulted in nothing to report as well. All right, would like to draw attention to the next item on our agenda, which is the consent agenda. As you know by now, the items on the consent agenda are routine and expected to be non-controversial. However, anyone in the audience can pull an item off, or anyone on the Board of Supervisors can also pull an item off. So at this point, I'd like to ask if any person would like to remove something from the agenda. Okay, if not, Chair entertains a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Okay, we have a 5-minute recess until 9:10, when we'll take up our items that are not on the agenda. Anyone wishing to speak at that time could come forward. You could take this time to sign in. If you're going to talk, you could sign in now, and that way you won't have to take the time later to sign in. Thank you. All right, I'd like to reconvene the meeting, and we are at item number 6. This is public comments. A reminder that we have limitation of 5 minutes per person and 15 minutes per topic. So, good morning.
Good morning. I'm Kathy Sancanella from the airport, as you all know, and I'm here to give you some really good news about the airport, and so I won't take very long. Our airport has become a model for GA airports in the state. Actually, they call and find out, well, how come you guys can run your airport so well?
What's GA?
General aviation.
Okay.
Yeah. And we do it because we have a strong support staff right here. You guys, admin, and my tenants. We just have a real good organization going out there, and we're doing just one. Now that I'm through patting myself on the back, we have just finalized a $53,300 FAA grant that will repay us for repairing Carroll Kennedy Drive, which basically not an airport road, but because we use it, we were able to get state grants to repair that and do some security fencing. But the big thing I want to tell you about is thanks to Jeff White and his crew, Rourke Weber and his crew, we've come up finally with what we feel is a solution that will give us new hangars. The FAA project that put in the ramp out there is all ready to go. When I took it to building and I said, now we're ready to go out to bid, we have the bids all ready to go. And they said, well, you know, we have this little problem called water and fire safety. So we have been a year trying to get all of this settled because we don't have access to good water out there. We think we have it done. Jeff and his guys kind of said, well, bring it in formally now because I think this will work. So that should happen in the next month or so. Maybe we can get out to bid this fall. And that's just really good news for us because we've been wanting that. Meade and Hunt have got the plans all done up, ready to go out to bid. As you know, it's a perfect time because of people looking for work. And anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know, because I don't see all of you very often, what is going on, and also to invite you at any time, give me a call, and I'll give you an airport tour, take you for a ride over the airport, whatever you'd like. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Kathy.
Do you have any questions? No questions?
Kathy, I have a question. I have heard from a number of sources that you attract a lot of people to our airport because of keeping our fuel prices a little lower than surrounding areas. Is that a true statement?
That is absolutely true. I have more than doubled my fuel sales in the last couple of years because of that. Because pilots will fly 100 miles to save 10 cents a gallon, but the ones that have twins and take a lot of gas, that makes a lot of difference. Plus, our location is absolutely excellent. People going south to north and vice versa, they can just swing into Calaveras very easily. They come up from Stockton for fuel all the time. Rancho Marietta, Columbia, Jackson.
Okay, I'm going to give you a chance to do a little advertising. Look in the camera and tell them what our field elevation is and our Unicom frequency and all the.
Well, that's if you're a pilot, that's all in the book you look at. You know that, Russ. But yes, and then we have a very friendly atmosphere out there, and we've worked very hard at that. Rose Davids has sweet rolls there every day, and people know these things from everywhere. So, again, thank you.
Okay, tell us the date and time of your annual open house event.
Our annual open house is held on the fourth Saturday in April. Okay. Fourth Saturday in April, same day as several other things, but that's just the way it goes.
Okay, and on that day, I've often seen lines up and down, or people, young folks standing in line waiting for...
We give, one of the things we do at our annual open house, which is not done anywhere else that I know of, and done, we have always done, we give $5 airplane rides. And we can do that because the pilots donate their airplanes and their gas. We can't even pay for the gas. That by FAA rules, if you want to do charity flights, you have to, you cannot get paid for any of it. But we usually run 250 to 350 rides on that day from local people, and it's one of our biggest deals.
Okay, well, as you know, I've been a pilot, not recently, but for many, many years. I enjoyed that avocation. It was really fine, and I appreciate your work very, very much.
The other thing that I didn't mention is we have a brand new avionics shop at Calaveras County Airport, and that's a big thing for airports. These people have a shop up in Reno. They wanted to be over on this side of the hill and contacted me, and we worked it out, and they're going to have a barbecue out there on, I think it's the 11th of September. If you want to stop by and see what they have to offer, you're more than welcome.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you very much, Kathy.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all.
Hi, my name is Ingrid Brown, and I live on 79 Cabernet. And I know I only got 5 minutes, and I have two problems. The first problem is the noise ordinance. I wasn't here the last couple of meetings, and I think it's time that we push that through, because we still have noise problems. And when you have a noise problem and you call up the sheriff's department, oh, there is no noise ordinance, so you got to put up with it. And the way I feel is we voted the other people out of office, and I voted you people in, and I was hoping you guys do something, but it doesn't look like you ain't doing nothing. So let's get on it.
I appreciate you bringing that up. That was a topic of discussion here a couple of weeks ago. It is coming back very soon. I don't know whether we have it agendized on a date certain, but it was in September of last year that this chamber was filled to over capacity for people who were. Well, the issue was the rentals. What brought it to the forefront was the fact that people were renting houses in certain areas of the county for periods of time less than 30 days in the R1 zone. And so we sort of moved that topic over into suggesting that we could do a better job of controlling unacceptable behavior with a nuisance noise ordinance. That is, I'm very strongly committed to bringing that back and implementing it. So you have my assurance that will be done.
Okay, my other problem is I have a 9-year neighbor problem, and it's very serious. And I've been fighting with the sheriff's department and the DA, and they don't want to do nothing. I had hired 2 lawyers. I spent $50,000 on fees and nothing. My son was put in jail for 1 year on lies, and I'm living in terror every day because of these crazy neighbors I got. The one thing is the mother that lives here, right? She told elder abuse. I'm 75 years old, so I contacted elder abuse, which doesn't do diddly, okay? Anyhow, the elder abuse went over there, and the mother, the homeowner, told her that she's going to take her gun and blow my head off and solve the problem. The elder abuse never came back and told me this. I'm out there in the yard working, and I'm going about my business, and I don't nothing that somebody is threatening me. As far as I'm concerned, it's a terrorist threat. The sheriff goes over there and asks her, did you make that statement to blow Ingrid's head off? Yes, I did, but I had a bad day. And they let it go. Now, if anything would happen, if any threat would have made to any of you that somebody says, I'm going to take my gun and blow your head off, I'm sure something would have been done. This was fluffed over. At the same time, I had a restraining order against these people, and they're not supposed to have any guns. So what about this? And it goes on. It goes on and on and on. And the sheriff's department has told me they're washing their hands of us. They don't want to come out anymore. They don't want to do nothing. I'm a taxpayer. And I'm 75 years old. I got the right to live in peace and don't have to put up with these 2 crazy bitches. The daughter is driving for 10 years without a driver's license, and she is harassing me in her car. She also has threatened to kill me. I phoned the highway patrol. That's the only people that has helped me, and I got a special number. When I see her pull out and come in front of or drive by my house, I call it in, and they're going to try to catch her. She had 3 warrants out for her arrest. The cops never arrested her. When I called in and she
Ingrid,
got stopped again, yes, I would like to finish this.
Okay, I just want to point out to you.
Why didn't the car get
15
impounded?
seconds.
Okay? Let's do something about this. You want to see me dead? Yeah, that would solve the problem, would it? So, where do I get help? Where do I get help? You tell me. I cannot get help from the sheriff's department. I cannot get help from the elder abuse. Where do I go? Maybe I should go to Sacramento next.
Mrs. Brown, this is,
Yes.
as you well know, this has been a topic of discussion between you and me for a couple of years now.
Yes.
I've tried very much to insert myself into this and to give you some help on it. I will continue to do that, but your time is up this morning. There
Okay.
are other people that want to talk.
So who is going to help me? Who can I make an appointment to and we can discuss this with? You?
Yes.
Okay, I call you then at home.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Holly.
Good morning. My name is Holly Mines, and I live in Railroad Flat. And I'm coming to you this morning on the issue that I've come to you before on, and that is affordable housing. So I'd like to pass out a little statement that the group that I've been working with has made, and I'd like to be able to read it into the record, so to speak, so that the audience and the public can hear about it. So earlier this year, I came and spoke to you as a representative of an affordable housing concerned citizens group. And not long after that, you agreed to contract Mintier Harnish to write a revised housing element. And I understand that that is to be released quite soon, and there will be a series of meetings on that coming up. On June 24th, our committee presented an educational forum on affordable housing, which was well-attended and I think very informative. As a result of that forum, our citizens group has expanded and been meeting since July 17th as we've called ourselves the Housing Element Stakeholders Group. And I think we represent a fairly broad spectrum of the community. And actually several of them came today just to support me in giving our little presentation. And I'd like them to raise their hands just so you can see that there's a variety of people that are represented. Thank you. Together, we've created two documents. One is a list we've called Guiding Principles for the Housing Element, and the other one is a list of proposed list of implementation measures that we would like to see begun once the housing element is approved and adopted, approved by the state and adopted by the board. And I'd like to read these, as I said. Our group intends to carefully review the baseline report on the housing element and the draft of the element when it comes out, and attend the stakeholders meeting, as well as I'm sure you know that you're going to be holding a joint meeting between the board and the Planning Commission. So we'll be there to comment at that time. We'd like to thank you for undertaking this revision of the housing element. And now I'd like to read these guiding principles. The values listed below represent a vision of the near future as it relates to housing. Adoption of a set of agreed-upon values can guide discussions of specific goals and implementation measures. Attention to values will enable compromises needed for developing a unified set of recommendations on the housing element. We expect the housing element to reflect our desire to live in a community where, and there are 9 points, number 1, affordable housing is the shared responsibility of all members of the community, including county government, developers, residents, and the community at large. Number 2, all children live in decent housing. Number 3, all working families have the opportunity to live in decent, affordable housing. Number 4, the vulnerable among us, seniors, people with disabilities, battered women, etc., live in safe and secure housing located in community areas where appropriate services are readily accessible. Number 5 has 3 parts. Employers recruit and retain local employees who can afford to live here. A wide variety of local rental and ownership choices provide employers access to a skilled workforce, including the younger workers they need to remain competitive. B, the availability of low-cost rentals supports businesses' ability to recruit low-wage workers, particularly for key sectors of our economy, agriculture and tourism. C, affordable housing is located close to jobs, services, and access to public transportation, reducing the vehicle miles traveled and greenhouse gas emissions. 6, new development, and particularly affordable housing, is integrated into existing communities, capitalizing on existing infrastructure and allowing for the conservation of existing open space and agricultural land. Infill and denser development is encouraged within existing town sites. Affordable housing is distributed appropriately throughout the community. 7, all home builders, and particularly affordable home builders, incorporate energy-efficient and sustainable building techniques to minimize maintenance costs and demand for resources. 8, all home builders, and particularly affordable home builders, consider context, aesthetics, durability, and ease of maintenance when selecting designs and finishes for their projects. And the last one, 9, county government is an effective, positive partner with developers, home builders, lenders, investors, local agencies, federal and state governments, employers, and nonprofit housing organizations to facilitate development of cooperative policies and implementation procedures resulting in a full inventory of decent housing, rental, and ownership for community members of all income levels. So that's the statement that our group has agreed upon as kind of what we'd like to see as guiding principles.
Excuse me, in order to be consistent, you're 30 seconds over your 5 minutes. Can you wrap it up, please?
Oh, okay. Well, then maybe I'll just ask somebody else. If we can have 15 minutes on the topic, then maybe somebody else could read the implementation measures. Would you rather we do it that way?
I think that that's what we should do.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to yield my minutes to Holly.
I would prefer to keep a consistency here. It's 5 minutes per person, 15 minutes per topic. Frank, excuse me.
I like to oppose that, so I like to keep at least some time to give 15 minutes, please.
Okay.
Okay, I will. My name is Frank Meyer from San Andreas, and I'll finish reading these. These are the initial implementation measures that Holly referred to, which would begin to take place after the housing element has met its approval cycle. First, the Board of Supervisors designate a staff person, which we'll just call housing director for now, who will be responsible for monitoring and implementing the housing element. This person could initially be the general plan coordinator in the event that position continues after adoption of the general plan, or a part-time member of the planning staff. Second, the Board of Supervisors designate and appoint members to a community housing group, the Housing Committee, which will work with the housing director to monitor and implement the housing element. 3, the balance of the Board of Supervisors to direct the housing director, other involved staff, and the housing committee to research partnerships, funding, and implementation opportunities appropriate to Calaveras County. 4, the Board of Supervisors to direct the housing director, other involved staff, and the housing committee to review existing planning, zoning, road, and other ordinances to identify those areas that require revision or updating to support the goals of the housing element. 5, Board of Supervisors to direct the housing director, other involved staff, and the housing committee to identify phased goals for the implementation of policies and procedures and construction of various housing types. 6, the Board of Supervisors to direct the housing director, other involved staff, and the housing committee to research, evaluate, and recommend to the Board of Supervisors for prompt adoption a per-building permit fee structure which will be part of a housing trust fund to provide ongoing funding for the housing director position and seed money for future projects. So these are implementation measures that we've also agreed to.
Thank you, Frank.
Good morning. My name is Bryant Wilson. Mr. Chairman, Board, I work over at Calaveras County Behavioral Health Services.
We are coming to the board to let the public know that September is Recovery Happens Month. Recovery Happens is a statewide public awareness campaign intended to celebrate the lives of people who are recovering from alcohol and drug addiction. The State Department of Alcohol and Drug Programs and the California Association of Recovery Resources have asked local communities to join in celebration by proclaiming September as Join the Voices of Recovery. Together we can learn, together we can heal. Recovery Happens is to thank the board and government for their support. Remember that when treatment works, recovery happens. September 2nd, we will be at a rally on the west steps of the state capitol. Calaveras County Substance Abuse Program staff and Calaveras residents who are in recovery will be participating in the event. I'd just like the public to be aware that there is help for people who have alcohol and drug abuse issues, and that if they or a loved one are having problems, they can call 754-6555, and they can speak to a staff person about their problems. I'm also going to ask Susan to come up and talk to you about family night and a couple of other folks that want to talk about their recovery. But anyway, I just wanted to say thank you for your support and everybody here. So hopefully a pat on the back is always warranted for you guys. I always appreciate your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning. State your name, please.
Susan Raisin from Behavioral Health Children's Program, Children and Families. And I just want to present you with flyers for our family night. This is sponsored by Substance Abuse and Mental Health. It's our education and support program. And the next family night, once a month, second Tuesday of the month. The next one is next Tuesday, September 8th. And our topic for the month is family traditions. And so anyone's welcome to come, and it's available to all families.
Thank you, Susan.
My name is Laurie Sundholm, and I work for Calaveras County Behavioral Health with older adult outreach. But as a result of my recovery, I've been blessed with this job. And I also wanted to, it took me a little bit longer to be gainfully employed part-time, partly because of my mental health issues. And because of that, we now have one of the few dual diagnosis anonymous meetings in the state up here, and it meets once a week on Tuesdays at noon. So,
thank you very much.
I'm Stephen Caro. I'm the parent partner for Children's Systems of Care here in Calaveras County. I'm also a recovering drug addict and alcoholic, and I've been in recovery for over 9 years. So I'm a representative here within your own county that recovery does happen, and I hope that the board supports this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Mavis Sayre, and I'm up in Robert Flat, and I know Steve and I know Russ Thomas. I sent you an email in June asking why code compliance still has not taken and moving forward a complaint that I had a hearing decision on last year in September in my favor on a neighbor's cleanup of the property, and the due dates have passed and nothing ever happens. And I talked to code compliance, I've emailed you, I've talked to Steve, and I mean, I'm at a loss. And as far as I'm concerned, the next time that Calaveras has to lay off people, they should just lay off the whole code compliance office, because I think that they are useless. And I'm really fed up at this point, and I would like to get the neighbor's property cleaned up. And I believe it is their responsibility to get it cleaned up or take initiative, not Steve's. He's a supervisor. He has many other things to do. So I'm hoping that you guys can do something to move this forward and get it cleaned up for me. I've done everything I'm supposed to get it cleaned up. So.
Mavis, I want to acknowledge that you and I have conversed on email on this,
Yeah.
and subsequent to that, I spoke to Supervisor Walensky and learned that there was a very aggressive cleanup campaign that was done by the community on this property. The way it's been explained to me is that there is one, I don't know, it's a mobile home that is in disrepair.
And there's also another a large truck cab that sits down in the back. There's also an abandoned truck there, and there's still a lot of garbage out there that Steve and I participated in the community cleanup, as well as my husband and some other volunteers, that we couldn't, we don't have the strength to be able to lift some of these items out. So there's more work than just the one mobile home.
Okay.
I can give since your last email, I have talked to code compliance, and the hang-up that we have, as I've conveyed to you, is that the mobile home is huge, and it can't be moved. It's kind of collapsed.
Right.
And what we have hoped for is that somebody with an acetylene torch and the capability of cutting it up safely, we do have a community group that's willing to, once it's in pieces, and take all the rest of the things that you mentioned, plus the pieces of this trailer and its contents, and put it in dumpsters. The dumpsters are available, the community volunteers are available, but we have yet to be able to find somebody willing to come and cut it up for us.
I do think, though, that at some point it should be put back as a responsibility of the homeowner up there. The lady should be responsible for finding somebody to help. I mean, it's totally been pushed off on other people, and she takes no responsibility, and it seems like Calaveras County agrees with that approach.
Well, Calaveras County has tried to handle this case with some degree of compassion. This is a person who lost her husband. The truck that you speak of next to it is broken down. She has no resources to be able to repair it. Adult Protective Services and others have tried to assist, but this is a destitute situation in which the resources...
She's bought a new car and she's bought a new tractor in the last few months. Okay, I know, we're all destitute, but different levels, I guess. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm at the end here, Steve. I understand, but we need to get it cleaned up. It's been 9 years I've been working to try to get this cleaned up. 9 years. It's not like I'm trying to push something through in 6 months. It's been 9 years I've owned the property up there, and the owners before me, too.
All right.
I'm hoping that code compliance will follow up on the original plan to cut it up and get it out of there, and including all the other large pieces.
Okay. Well, will you contact me soon, you or Russ, and see what we can do to...
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mavis.
Good morning. My name's Bonnie Newman, and I'm a little concerned with this lady and the last lady that talked about having done everything they possibly could, and they're waiting for either law enforcement or the district attorney's office or someone to step in, or code compliance, and take a step. I didn't see Mr. Rooster here with us this week, and I've listened to him for 3 months. And last Wednesday morning, I went out to his house at 5 in the morning because I'm tired of hearing him complain, but I bet I'm not as tired as hearing the roosters as he is. I just wanted to get a feel for what this poor man's going through, because I listen to the frustration and the helplessness when he comes and speaks. One of the reasons I come and talk, besides complaining or whining, is also, this is my 5-minute therapy session. It truly is. It keeps me from going postal somewhere. And I listen to Mr. Rooster, and I think he's on the verge of losing, what common sense he has left, because people get pushed to the point where they really... I hated to leave him last Wednesday because he was in the house by himself, but I'm really concerned that people are doing everything they possibly can, taking steps, going to court, getting restraining orders, and then they're left with feeling hopeless and helpless. And I would just like to feel that maybe somewhere you talked about the noise ordinance, that might help Mr. Rooster, but these other things that code compliance isn't following through and the sheriff's department isn't, you know, warning people, or they're washing their hands of it because they've been out there so many times. Please help these people, because it could be me with dogs or roosters, and then I would be here using up more time. Thank you for listening for my 5-minute therapy session today. But it's true. We do have a need to vent, and your patience and your graciousness and sitting there acting like you care is really hopeful to us poor people that, well, I mean, I'm sure you do, but I mean, it gets old after a while and you probably get tired of it, because I got tired of Mr. Rooster, but he's got a point. That poor man. Thank you.
Supervisor Walensky has a comment.
I also would like my moment of therapy on this topic. I would say more than half my time is spent in some form of mediation between neighbors who aren't getting along. And there are a whole lot of different kind of ordinances we could do to implement rules against rudeness, inconsideration, and inappropriate behavior between people who live near each other. And actually, 20 years ago, we could have done a different general plan that would have kept people further apart, so maybe they wouldn't be having activities in 5-acre parcels in perfect acoustical bowls in different neighborhoods around here. But the truth of the matter is, this board, which has now spent a good part of its morning already listening to issues involving neighbor disputes, needs to also remember that courtesy, and convey to you all in the community, that courtesy and considerations for others is actually the fundamental basis for having decent communities. And it's not the level of ordinances or the government force that we can bring down. There are 8 different agencies, including our Sheriff's Department, the DA, the Code Compliance, Adult Protective Services, the Environmental Health Department. All of these agencies have all weighed in numerous times. And by the way, our courts as well, twice in different directions. The amount of time and dollars spent on a chicken dispute that is fundamentally between neighbors who are intransigent and unwilling to compromise. BLM was even willing to have those people put their chickens on another property, but because everybody would rather fight than resolve. And this is a pattern in this county. It's a culture that we've developed where you think you can use the government to hurt one another when you don't get along. And my advice to people would be that the attempts to tie down perfectly good law enforcement, law and justice, our county departments in every way, should be dealing with meth issues, should be dealing with the variety of violent and assaults and troubles that we've had in this county between criminal elements and regular citizens, that we not get so distorted that we have ruined our county, weighed down an already thin county service in these types of issues. Now, let's add one other thing. Knowing that we spend so much money and time on it, shouldn't we together find venues that can resolve this besides the Board of Supervisors and 8 county agencies? Shouldn't we have dispute resolution processes that are neighborhood-based, community-based, and where people can take their issues and get them resolved by not by taking the arm of law and pounding each other, but by, again, trying to resolve on the basis of consideration and courtesy for one another these issues? That's my therapeutic moment. But I'm getting pretty tired of being flogged for dealing with things that are essentially matters of courtesy and manners.
Dennis Dunham, Sheriff. Steve, just to reinforce your point, I went over and got this since Russ decided that he was going to meet with Ms. Brown. Our computer-aided dispatch system will only print out calls for service since 2004. We have been to that house nearly 200 times since 2004.
Which house are you referring to?
The 7900 Chardonnay that Miss Ingrid Brown said she was getting no service at. Week before last, we arrested the woman that made those threats against her. But if you want to take it a step further and talk about dispute resolution, you need to go to Fremont, because that's where the Browns came from. And you will find another list just like this, because neighbors are screwed up. And it is never, ever going to stop. And quite frankly, the amount of time we've invested in this, we could nearly use another deputy just for Chardonnay.
Full time.
So anyway, Russ, I'd like to give you this so you'll have.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Dennis.
I wonder whether you could come up with a similar sheet on the other neighborhoods we've been discussing this morning, because I think you will find that while being accused of doing nothing, that we have put in thousands of hours on each of those. That's your tax money. If that's where you want us to spend it, and that's what you're telling us, then you're going to have to deal with where it's going to be taken away from. And in my district, we'd rather see the sheriff busting meth houses and dealing with
we would much,
dangerous criminals.
We would much prefer that. Thank you.
Yes,
How are
Mr.
you
Clem.
folks doing today?
You
Got to ask?
Anyway,
We're going to wind Steve up a minute,
That's right.
so you better be careful what you say.
Anyway, I guess I'm going to wind them up again. Anyway, I have a house. I have several houses. One Russ knows about. I'm going to leave that house. It's in a sinkhole. It's getting worse all the time, and they drag more cars in and more cars. It's terrible. They got furniture in the front yard that's been there for 2 years. I don't know what they do with it. But I guess they got new furniture. I let that go. I'll just let the house go. I'm in a lucky position I can do that. But I'm not going to stay there. It's terrible, and it's getting worse. I mean, that's the street I tell you half the houses are foreclosed on. And every time they move those low-income housing, people want more low. And you can buy a house, by the way, for $100,000 on that street right now. So I don't know what you need more low housing for. I have another house that they put a 13-foot wall up behind it over a creek. So now when the creek runs, it rains, it runs through my house. So I guess I shouldn't say anything about that, but I had, and I think code compliance has been working quite well with me, and I'm pleased with it. But there's some times that you have to do a complaint like that when your neighbor blocks off the river and diverts it through your house. So, I mean, it's not all chickens all the time. Sometimes it is. So I have a house now that when it rains, it has a river through it. So there is some issues and stuff on that, and I don't think there's any other way to resolve some issues. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Rusk.
Good morning. I came so close to not talking. My name's Darrell Rusk. Live at 101 Melcher Lane, Valley Springs, Burson, 95252, telephone 772-0225. I've got just a number of very short comments, one regarding the facilitator, the community-based. I also submitted a letter to Mr. Lawton on that subject some time ago, dealing basically with customer service and a way to help resolve some of the community difficulties that arise before they get to you, because you don't need to spend an hour every Tuesday morning listening to people like me. I do want to commend Kathy regarding the airport. I would like to export her skills to the city of Corning up north, where they just completed a 25-year lease for the airport and all of its infrastructure, including buildings, for $15,000. That's not per month. That's for the entire 25 years. Yeah. So I would like to export her. I'm sure she would be more beneficial to them than they have right now. An awful lot of people, and Rita, I really want to aim this to you with heartfelt sympathy. Many of us here, all of us here, have lost loved ones. And sometimes simple kindnesses can ease the pain of that. Right now, there are also people losing everything in terrible fires in Auburn and in Southern California and Pasadena, San Gabriel areas. If any one of us can offer extra prayers for those people, we could do that. And as far as therapy, Steve, I think you got your therapy this morning. You did good. The only concern regarding the housing element that I have, the more we design in higher costs for construction, the more difficult it is to build inexpensive homes. Although they'll be inexpensive in the long term, sometimes beginning with the contractor trying to build a home, all of the accoutrements for energy savings cost money. And it makes it difficult to build that combination that's both inexpensive and energy efficient. But we've all been there too. At any rate, thank you all for your therapy this morning, because God knows you each need it.
Thank you, Joe. Morning,
Good
Ed.
morning. Ed Ballard with the Sheriff's Department. Time for the monthly public update on the ADF project. I've handed you all copies. There's a couple things that I just want to point out. EDA has completed their field work and laboratory work out there at the site. We were worried about the wetlands mediation. It looks, right now, I haven't seen a report, but it looks like right now that we're down to less than a half acre of actual wetlands that we'll have to mediate, which means we're able to move the building back where it was so that we can attach to the court. So that's a good positive there. Some of the issues that we'll be dealing with is the project delivery and construction agreement, which is with CSA, and it's they've submitted it or they put out the rough draft. None of the counties have been awarded AB 900 funding like it, so it's been sent back. Until that document is completed by CSA, once we get to a point where we can actually start construction, that has to be done, or we can't start. Due diligence has been, the initial package has been completed by Mr. Jeffries. We will be submitting it to the state for them to review it. And there was one other thing I wanted to discuss. That looks like it. We will be going on September 8th. We will be going to CSA to show them our initial 30% design. It's kind of a heads up. It's not an official submittal, but just so that we can get with CSA and the state fire marshal and make sure that we're building within the scope of our work, so we can proceed without investing money into the schematic design, and then something coming back, finding out that we weren't in the initial scope that we agreed upon within the funding application. And that's all I have.
Any questions of Captain Ballard?
Okay. You guys have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks for your report. Okay, is there anyone else wishing to address the board this morning? Morning, Mr. Turley.
Jim Turley, SEIU. Just wanted to report a couple of things. I'm not totally organized this morning. I apologize for that. Hadn't really planned on standing up and speaking, but a few things have happened during the week that I think need to be addressed at least a little bit. We had a general meeting after the proposal of taking a 7.88% cut in pay, and the meeting basically came back with no, SEIU would not support that condition at all. And there are several reasons for that, and I think the board needs to know part of them, because I understand that the board is also considering taking action on mid-management and management, and I think all of these reasons should play into that. First one is that you're dealing with general fund versus non-general fund departments. and you're only talking about bringing back the general fund department managers, mid-management, and that is, in our opinion, unfair to the non-general fund departments, as well as not economically feasible for the non-general fund departments. And that's probably the biggest reason. The other reason you need to think about whether or not you bring these people back is you're probably going to be with the state still in limbo on its final budget. You're going to be looking at layoffs in the near future. If not the end of the first quarter, at the end of the second quarter, you're probably going to have to propose layoffs. The question I would have is the fairness and in bringing back employees when you know that they're going to be the first ones on the chopping block, for lack of better words, in 3 to 6 months. They've already gone through the mental state of having to adjust to being unemployed, and to ask them to come back, get their hopes up, and then hit them again with taking them off of the payroll. It's not fair on a mental stability basis. Also, you need to keep into consideration, how will this affect their unemployment and their taxes? You're going to bring them back, draw income, lay them off again, and this could affect their ability to draw unemployment at the rate they are now. Some of them already have job interviews. Some of them already have positions. So asking management and mid-management to take a pay cut may be futile in what you're striving for. And I would urge you, leave things as they are for now. Wait until your mid-year budget review and take a look at it again. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else wishing to address the board? Good morning, Mr. Kelly.
Joe Kelly. Good morning, sir. This morning I was looking at an article written by Dan Walters in the Sacramento Bee. Ron Sealing, the chief actuary of the California Public Employees Retirement System, Sealing told a Sacramento seminar, quote, "I don't want to sugarcoat anything. We are facing decades without significant turnarounds in assets, decades of what I, in my personal words, nobody else's, unsustainable pension costs of between 25% of pay for a miscellaneous plan and 40 to 50% of pay for a safety plan, police and firefighters. Unsustainable pension costs. We've got to try to find some other solutions." Sealing didn't know that an internet blogger, veteran reporter Ed Mendel, was in this audience and would quote him. And as Sealing's comments have echoed, they have undercut the official CalPERS stance that no major systemic changes are needed. CalPERS portfolio has lost about a quarter of its value in recent years and will seek a multi-billion-dollar increase in payments from taxpayers to bolster its bottom line. It's a well-established principle in California law that public worker pensions cannot be abrogated for those already on the payroll. They have roughly the same legal status as bond issues in claiming portions of the public treasury. My questions are this: is Calaveras County's retirement fund fully funded with CalPERS, or should we citizens expect up the ante to cover a long-term shortfall? Retirement funding is the next government crisis. Are you willing to publicly discuss it? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Anyone else wishing to address the board? Okay, if not, I have one question for the group that brought this, the housing element, initial implementation measures. Your item number 6 about suggesting that we put a per building permit fee structure on housing units that are permits that are issued in the county. Is it your intent that those fees would also be applied to the affordable housing units? Okay, that strikes me as a kind of a fundamental disconnect, that you would put a fee on something that you're trying to make affordable. But Anyway, just an aside. If there are no other comments this morning under the public comments, then we'll go on to item number 7. This is a discussion and possible action regarding a resolution authorizing additions, deletions, and changes to the county fees, speaking of fees, per the attached schedule. And I think we're getting a schedule.
Good morning, Shirley Ryan, Assistant County Administrator. As part of the normal budget process, we bring to the board a review of the annual fee schedule. Historically, it's done somewhere in the budget process. Department heads have reviewed their fees and made proposals for either changes to current fees, new fees, or deletions of the fees. Handed out is a new schedule. The only change to that schedule is an addition of one fee requested by the county librarian for colored copies of a quarter. Department heads are here today to answer the board's specific questions regarding any of their proposed fees or fee changes. And there was one other item that has been requested to be discussed. And last year, if you'll recall, the board opted to impose on copies made for the public a charge that only was incurred after the third copy. Now, there's been some discussion among department heads that they would prefer that they have a per charge copy starting with the first copy instead of the third copy to help offset their cost. The board may or may not wish to revisit this item. It is not on the fee schedule as it was. I've heard from both a number of different department heads, and there's a differing of opinion as to whether it should remain at the per copy charge after the third copy or whether it's changed for the first one. So if the board has any questions for department heads, they're available.
Supervisor Walensky.
I just have one question. You said that the only change, we've got two things now. One came with the packet and the other just was distributed. The only difference is the library?
That's correct.
Okay, that's the whole.
That was the only addition.
All right. Thank you.
How do we want to handle this, Shirley?
It's up to the board if you want to go by supervisor as to whether you have questions for specific department heads or if you want to go through the fees by department, starting with the first one.
Right.
And if there's questions, we can have those addressed as we go through the fee schedule, and if there's no questions or concerns, we can just move to the next department.
Oh, I'm going to just go jumping.
Okay.
On environmental health, the farmer's market, I thought we had discussed last year that we weren't going to have a fee for the farmer's market. And this is now $89 because we're trying to encourage farmers markets. And since Brian's not here.
He was here.
He was. Is everybody hiding? Here we go. Anyway, I'm putting that one out. I just remember that we had quite a in-depth discussion on that. And the one on yard waste that you're doing a delete, thank you very much. But I guess I have a question on that. Who's going to take that?
Morning, Mr. Garcia.
Good morning. Tom Garcia, Public Works.
Tom, could you explain segregated wood, yard waste? We have clean construction wood, and we have yard waste.
This is the brush that comes in.
The brush, okay. So we're deleting the fee, except that we don't do it. We went through the trauma drama this past year from November to April. So from November to April, should we not designate if there is a fee that would be paid to, well, I can't address the rest of the county, but Miller and Raleigh's?
What we're trying to do with this fee is to match the fee that was being charged by the contractor that the county has, that Miller is charging at their facility. So we're charging the same as, we're matching our fees with the contractors for acceptance of yard waste.
This is, it sounds like, I understand, I mean, I hear what you're saying,
Okay.
but,
It isn't written that way?
well, no, it doesn't sound like it,
Okay.
because for me, it would be like year-round, plus I think Miller was doing $5 a cubic yard, not 4.
We
and-
have an old fee that we're deleting that we charged in the past. That's the deletion that you see. We used to charge $4 a cubic yard at our Rock Creek facility.
Right.
And then, yes, Miller charges $5 a cubic yard during the off-season when we're not subsidizing their operation.
Okay. So if we go to Rock Creek, there will be no fee.
We're proposing a new fee.
But it says delete. What am I missing here?
Might as well join the crowd. If you look, there's 3 groupings for integrated waste: new fees, fee revisions, and fee deletions. My understanding is what's being deleted is the old fee of no charge for less than 4 cubits per yard, and the old fee of $4 per cubic yard for more than 4 cubic yards. What is being new is the per cubic yard fee applies to everything. So if you look up at 123, well.
Right, I see that.
Wood waste. 123, that's the new fee that will replace 125 and 126.
So whether you have 1 cubic yard or you have 5 cubic yards, it's going to be $4.
A cubic yard, per cubic yard.
At Milton.
Everywhere.
Milton, Red Hill, Wilseyville.
Well, there's a disconnect in, at least in Ebbets Pass, because for part of the year, there is no fee to the consumer, and then from November to April, Miller or Brian charge a fee. So this was not clear to me. I don't want some...
Currently, that is the case. There is no fee. What is before you is the fee for yard wood waste at $4 a cubic yard.
So if I go this week or in 30 days to Miller's or to Raleigh's, I'm going to pay $4 a cubic yard?
That's correct. That is the proposal.
I can't support that. At this time, there's got to be a lot of groundwork laid out before I could do that. I mean, we started something 5 years ago. It's really helped with the yard waste that's out in the woods, down the roads. So we're now wanting to charge people 4, and then come November, Miller or Raleigh goes to 5. I mean, it becomes, because they have that right to do that. And to me, it's a huge benefit to the community as a whole.
One of the issues we have is the pretty much the hemorrhaging of the solid waste department as far as funding. Providing these services at the remote locations, quite costly.
And it's been, because it's been so successful.
It has been successful in one respect by getting those wastes into a waste stream, and we do get diversion credits for that, but also the hauling costs are a problem with our budget. This will help recoup some of those hauling costs. We're also looking in great anticipation with the permitting of the new facility out near Ione, at which time we could, if that becomes another revenue stream, we would come to look at reducing these fees or possibly eliminating them if we could find another revenue stream to supplant these. But right now, we're operating, well, at a loss, obviously, but at a huge loss.
Let's come back to Supervisor Callaway's comments, but Supervisor Walensky, you had something you wanted to add?
That's kind of on the same general topic. I'm interested in sort of policy implications of decisions we make. Sometimes there are unintended consequences. We try to break even in one area, and all of a sudden we have a bigger expense in another. So one of the things that I'm particularly sensitive about, having spent the better part of 4 years trying to get appliances out of the woods and out of the stream beds and out of people's piles in the front yards, despite the number of comments we've had this morning, actually things have gotten better over the last few years, and that's in no small measure to community groups that have done a huge effort to take appliances out of places they used to be dumped generation or two ago. Since we've had the current plan where you just bring the stuff in and no fees attached, people have generally been bringing them in, although we have some exceptions. I worry that a $25 fee in my district is going to result in, this works in urban areas because there's no place to hide your stuff. But in District 2, there's a lot of ravines that we've just finished pulling stuff out of that I'm sure people will rediscover with a $25 incentive per piece of old junk. And so it does save money for the operations of the landfill and the transfer stations. But my guess is that it will cost code compliance if we are to retrieve these things more to haul them out of where they're dumped than we're saving on the other side. And I think we need an integrated approach to the economy of our policies, and that's a concern I've got here. That doesn't downgrade, though, my belief that we've got to come up with a comprehensive way to meet our solid waste demands and plan for the future on it. And I know there are a lot of different options that we're considering. I just hate to do it piecemeal, and especially in a way that simply moves the cost to another line item.
Maybe I could attack these three as they came up. The three waste streams that we have problems with are the wood waste, the large appliances. Actually, it's not the white waste, the waste that we have to process, removing the condensers, the ones that one of our staff actually has to rip apart in order for the machine to be dumped or scrapped. They have to remove the condenser, they have to bleed the system. It's a labor-intensive action. That and the large animals. Those three are the ones that we've targeted as being problematic. The white waste, the refrigerators, freezers, things that we actually have to spend time on, we have become a receptor for areas outside because we do not charge. I'm sure you've all gone to, well, possibly not all gone to the landfill or the transfer stations, but the amount of refrigerators that come into our facilities, it's incredible how much we bring in. And from all outside appearances, it would be more than our community would generate. Otherwise, there are a lot of brand new refrigerators out there that our residents have. But what we're trying to do is implement a fee that is not a disincentive for residents to bring their materials in, but would make someone from Stockton or outside the area think twice about driving up the road and dumping it for free.
Are we perhaps mixing and matching issues? I agree we have a problem with people driving across the river dumping things into Calaveras because Amador has a different fee structure. I know that we've had. I also know that every time we've done just a Saturday radio person down at the river notifying the people up top that they should turn these folks around when they get there, that inconvenience reduces the traffic considerably for a period of usually about 2 to 3 months. But usually we only do this once a year or so. I'm wondering whether we have an interdiction and prevention problem or maybe an ID issue where people are coming in from outside, and if we simply had a sticker that people could put on their bumper for local people that pay their $150, anybody without it should be paying fees much bigger than this. I would support a $100 fee for somebody who's not, or a $150 fee for people who are not paying their $150 and using our dumps.
We've had experience with relatives, your brother-in-law.
Second homeowners bringing it up from.
Right. We attract a lot of waste because of our free policy. And this is just, again, this was the fee that was determined by staff to be one that would make a non-resident think twice about coming up the hill to dump at our facility. We're open to modifications. This is what we looked at in order to help balance our budget.
Any other questions?
Well, it goes back to we should be looking at the $160. How much longer can we afford the Cadillac system at $160?
And that was something we looked at, whether to cut service at the transfer stations or to try to increase the revenue stream for the problematic wastes. And rather than cut service, we opted to try this route.
Mr. Garcia, I'd like to ask a couple of questions myself. At the Copperopolis transfer station, that's the one that I have the most experience with. I've never seen any cash change hands there. So is this part and parcel of this would be that if I wanted to put a refrigerator in the dumpster or in the they've got these 20-yard bins that they had to put metal in. So I put it there and I give the attendant $25. Is that the way that's going to work?
No.
We would continue to accept appliances only at the facilities that we currently accept appliances at.
Right now, Copper doesn't.
Copper doesn't accept appliances.
Okay.
Those are strictly for scrap metal.
Didn't we used to charge for appliances?
No, we made people go to a private dealership and have the Freon removed, which they would have to pay there, and then we would accept their appliance evacuated.
Now we've become a one-stop shop where we actually do the evacuation in our facility.
Okay, one question that I have is sort of related but unrelated is that will there be a hazardous waste day like we've had it in the past, specifically in Copperopolis, and I know you don't have them in Valley Springs because of the proximity to Rock Creek, but how about some of the other communities this year? Are we going to continue that or not?
The proposed locations are Arnold, San Andreas, and West Point.
And the date?
The dates are, I believe, September 26th and 27th.
So
We've canceled the event in Copper because the traffic is so low. Last year, I believe we got 37 vehicles.
okay.
And Copper is 14 miles from Rock Creek, the permanent facility.
Okay.
How about at Frogtown? Are you planning one there again at the fairgrounds?
No, the fairgrounds. No. We're going to have the event in San Andreas here at the
Are
airport.
you offering your house for the drop-off point?
It's already over capacity in household hazardous waste.
Well, at this point, I understand where you're going. Mr. Garcia.
Oh.
Without some more community outreach, I can't support those.
The yard and wood waste, the
Yeah,
large
the yard and
appliance.
wood waste, and I agree with Steve on the large appliances also. We had a huge issue in Ebbets Pass, and when I go to Avery, the place is loaded with appliances. Maybe there's some other options we could look at, and I'd be most willing to consider them, like maybe people can either pay to have the county dismantle, let's say, a refrigerator, or they can go somewhere else to have it dismantled, or they can do it however they choose to, but when they bring it to the transfer station, it is dismantled. So the question would be, assuming they do, would we accept the Freon in the hazardous waste container, or what?
No, our crews have to remove the condensers, bleed the system, and separate those two items.
And what do they do with that?
They ship them to a separate facility.
Okay, so...
The rest of the appliance is scrapped as waste metal.
Okay, so if you have, okay. Maybe if we say if you bring it, they have to be dismantled, or you pay the county to do that. Is that an option?
Well, that's in effect what we're trying to do with the
to
refrigerators and freezers, is that $25 fee is for our crew to recover some of the cost of our crews doing that evacuation. I don't think you can get that done at a private vendor for that cost.
But that's an option. I think if people understood why, I just don't want to start seeing them in the creeks or the Forest Service land.
Okay.
But that's me on those two issues.
Just for a scope of the amount of waste that we get about 3,200 appliances, just refrigerators and freezers at $25 each. That's about $81,000 to our revenue stream. The wood waste, we get about 68,000 yards. At $4 a yard, that's about $272,000 that was anticipated to go into our budget. Again, we'll be looking, if these aren't implemented, we'll be looking at our budget to make some changes to bring our operations back into line with the revenues.
Mr. Garcia, could you kind of bring this into a down-home perspective? I mean, everybody can see that it's your proposed rate is $4 per cubic yard, but I've got a F-350 long bed pickup, and I'm going to take a load of pine needles into the dump. How many yards is that? 1, 2, 3, or?
About a yard, 2 yards.
How many bags is it in the back of my car? I don't have.
We usually say the back of a pickup bed, like heaping, is about 2 cubic yards.
Okay, so 2 heaping, or a heaping pile in the back of my pickup is going to cost $8.
Yes.
Okay, and all I've got is a $10 bill. They make change down there? They put it on a credit card? What are the, how
Cash
are we?
and check.
Cash and check.
Yeah, they will
Okay,
make change.
they do make change, okay.
Gratuity.
Plus a tip. Okay. And if I took that same load down there and it had a couple of 2x4s sticking out of the back of it, does that change the classification of the material?
No.
Okay.
Tom, on the refrigerator freezer item, if you imposed a $25 fee but they show up and it's dismantled, then would you waive the fee? Could we put it to where the fee would be waived if we didn't have to spend the time to dismantle it?
Certainly. If the system were evacuated and the condenser were removed, yes. we would encourage people to have that actually done at a facility, so that it didn't.
But if they show up and it's already done, it's not.
It's already done, right.
So we're going to poke a hole in the ozone layer again here, right here in Calaveras County. Supervisor Walensky.
Knowing full well the risks of raising this topic, I'll do it anyway. I'm curious on the public transit fees.
Jamie's not here, okay.
Yes, I did note that, but there's a 50% increase in the fare. I know we've talked about this and the need to get fare box revenues up to a reasonable amount. But I'm also interested in what history we have of raising fees and what its effect on ridership is. Because there should be some kind of metric we can apply and know how many fewer people will be going based on what level of fee rises we have. We already suffer from too few people using it, and I'm just wondering how you project these fees and what basis you think for the revenues. Is there any offset in reduced ridership? If so, what's the metric you've used?
I'm going to have to defer to Jamie and the COG on that.
Jamie had said that ridership increased when the price of gas increased substantially. It didn't, there was, if I remember
But that was
last
without a fee.
time, there was, last time there was a fee increase, there was a very small dip, and then it went back up, if I remember. When we discussed this at the COG and here the last time we raised the fee.
Yeah, I believe that was in a slightly different economic circumstance, and I'm curious about how we assess this one in relation to this.
I believe this was discussed as part of the Master Transit Plan update for the board previously.
Nobody will know until after the fact.
In other jurisdictions.
I have a question on transit since it's brought up. I see that we have a fee for internal advertising. And on one of the buses, I saw external, I thought I saw for Cat Country radio station, external ad, but I don't see a fee in here for external advertising.
But that's because it's not changing, I think.
Is that correct? These are only changes?
These are only changes. These are either new fees.
So it stays, it's remaining the same?
Yeah, if it's unchanged, it has not been included.
So any internal, I'm taking we did not have any internal advertising until this point. Now we're going that route and putting a fee of $25 per advertising, 8.5 by 22 inches.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Garcia, I just want, for my own clarification here, these proposed fees, the increases on transit, they're shown to be implemented on 10/1/2009. But you just said that we discussed them when we previously discussed the transit fees. Now, are these a further increase beyond?
These are consistent with the Master Transit Plan that was discussed at the board.
There's the same increase for us.
Okay.
That's true.
But you have been charging these fees for some time. I mean, they went from $1 to $1.50 for a regular ticket a long time ago. I mean, 2 months ago.
Went from 70, wasn't it 75 cents?
No, 75 cents is a senior rate and a student discount rate. But
I'm going to have to check on the timing on the fees when they were actually implemented.
I think that you'll find that these are already, I mean, it's not a big deal, but I think that they've already gone up. And I've heard some heartburn expressed about the fact that there's no longer, I think I've got this right, there's no longer a discount for students.
I believe that's correct.
That is, at least in Copperopolis, that was a hurtful thing, and I think that resulted in a decrease in ridership.
I have to ask Jamie, I don't remember that.
I believe I
I
saw
know
that.
we discussed it, I'm assuming we discussed it here, I can't remember, when we eliminated the student discount. I might have been before you went. There you go.
Okay, this is not intended to be a public hearing, but I saw some people shaking their head. I would like to give anybody in the audience, since these fees are going to affect all of you, anybody have any comments that they would like to make at this time? I'll open the public hearing for 30 seconds.
Hi, guys. Yeah, I sort of agree with some of the comments I heard from the board and stuff, because if you do start charging for tires and stuff like that, then the waste stays on the side of the road, it stays in the house, it stays behind the houses. And, and that's one of the things. And a question I'm not sure, but I thought the $150 that's on our property tax for the thing, if I'm not mistaken, that was a bond that was put on our homes to pay for the dumps that we have now. No. Is that right or wrong?
No, that's a parcel fee.
Okay.
No bond. No debt.
Never was a bond. Okay. Yeah, so I would hate to see the fees raised on that. And it's almost like one affordable housing, so you raise the fees on permits to make affordable housing. It's just sort of an oxymoron. It doesn't make sense to me. And maybe I'm ignorant or something, but it seems like sometimes we, like you guys are saying, we make our own problems. We just shift it off somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Darrell Rusk again. I'm in an awkward position of actually agreeing with Marita and Steve both at the same time in the same meeting. This is very difficult for me.
Not that awkward. Come on.
Come on, Darrell. I have my session later in the day. I do agree. There are problems with the cost factors, but sometimes it's easy to be working on the numbers in an office and figuring out a few dollars here, a few dollars there. We can raise it 50 cents here, and that'll add up to $89,000 at the end. But there can be very severe unintended consequences, and the quality of life for some of the wildlife would be negatively impacted if they have to deal with washing machines and refrigerators in their backyard. And it is their backyard. I'm also interested in the idea that if a major problem exists, and I assume that it's primarily at the transfer stations, where cross-county line materials are being dropped off, then it sounds like it really is an interdiction problem more than anything else. And if there were a $100 fee, that would be reduced the moment that fee were charged a few times. So I think that particular aspect, the fees in that category need to be rethought. Also, if there's going to be a power plant that burns wood waste, that particular aspect may resolve itself and reduce the amount of revenue that could be gained by that particular field anyway. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rusk.
Joe Kelly. I agree with Mr. Walensky. My historic experience up in the Railroad Flat area, actually midway between Railroad Flat and Mountain Ranch, when I bought property up there, I spent a lot of time clearing out debris that was left by fine citizens dumping their junk. I had cars that were cut up, I had refrigerators, I had washing machines. I pushed it out to the road. Not onto the road, to the side of the road, because code enforcement had a program to be able to come in and take care of it. Subsequently, since then, and since I did a lot of brushing up there and took it from a big fire hazard to a park-like setting, which was 5 years ago or better, it's now getting overgrown. But I have found in the past that people will come instead of, I believe you have in Wilseyville, a station. Rather than go to Wilseyville, they would come up to my property, dump their green waste off there, and telephone poles, trailers, and roofing material and junk. So code enforcement at the time was doing a very good job. They'd be driving by, they'd see it. I'd go up, take a look at it, see it, call them, they'd say, oh yeah, we saw it. And then they'd even be driving by and I'd be there, and then they'd call them and they'd say, well, was that you there? And I said, yeah, it was me, folks. So your code enforcement did a very good job in that respect. But what I'm worried about is if increased fees, we'll start that all over again. Perhaps I should change my RA zoning to an industrial zone, and then maybe the county could enter into an agreement with me with this zone change, and we could set something up there. That is midway between Railroad Flat and Mountain Ranch Road. I've offered in the past before helicopter service with the building of Banner Road. All I'm doing is trying to offer things with suggestions, thoughts, and I'm not being facetious either. It is funny, but I'm not being facetious. Thank you.
It would cost you $9,000 for the zone change. So.
I thought we could do it for low on that, for low income transportation.
All right. I'm going to close the public hearing if there are no more public comments. So, Mr. Moss, one of our supervisors, at least one, had some questions for you.
Yes, good morning. Brian Moss, Administrator of Environmental Management. Apologize for my tardiness in returning to the board this morning. It's down in my office. There was a question apparently on farmers markets under our food facility program, and I came to answer any questions on that.
Did you hear the question?
I did not hear the question.
I thought we had discussed on farmers markets, because we were trying to encourage them, that there was not going to be a fee. And so now we're recommending that you propose a fee, and I'm assuming that's, I won't assume, is it per event? Or
Yes, per event. That's correct. What we're trying to do is just recover a little bit of our time for going out and doing the inspection.
So do you inspect it, for example, Murphy's has one every week. Angels, do they take care of their own, or do we?
No. Actually, what will happen is we will actually go, our staff person will go out and do an annual inspection of, first of all, we inspect the facilities and the whole farmers market, but we inspect it annually. So what we've done here is we've taken our existing weighted rate, which we did not increase this year, by the way, and that's why you're not seeing a great deal of new fees from the Environmental Health Department. But we're taking the existing rate, and that's the hourly rate, and we're estimating that it takes approximately an hour to do that inspection. In reality, it takes a little more than that from the travel time and the office time and the issuing of the permit in the office. But it's just a recovery of 1 hour.
Once a year?
Once a year. Unless, of course, we have a complaint. We go out, but we don't charge on complaints. I mean, if we had an issue.
So if they have the event weekly.
Right.
It's still just $89 one time.
It's $89 one time.
And that's for the market, not the participants in the
That's
market?
That's for the market.
The event.
That's for the market. That is correct. I would also like to bring up an issue, too, and we decreased, actually, another fee here, and that's the liquid waste vehicle annual permit fee. We've actually decreased that number.
You're shifting the discussion.
So, yes. I just wanted to point that out as well. It's important.
Are these late fees new to this, or is that just a continuation of existing practice?
Actually, the late fees since this is a new fee, the late fee would be a part of that new fee. Now, as far as that late fee structure is concerned, it's consistent with most of the other programs throughout the department. That is correct.
So the question is, where we had no fee before for the event.
Correct.
Do we want a fee for the event, even though it meets multiple times?
Right.
So.
That is our proposal.
Do you handle Angels Camp too?
We do.
Can you give me some examples of prepackaged products?
Oh, sure.
I
Absolutely. Prepackaged products would be something that you go into, let's say, in this case, of course, it's agricultural prepackaged products. Low-risk food, low-hazard foods. Obviously, they could be something like Cracker Jacks, as an example. It's prepackaged. It comes from the factory. In other words, they're not doing food handling. And that's our issue when it comes to overseeing food facilities and as far as microbiological risk is the actual handling of food. So prepackaged items are low hazard, minor issues compared to, let's say, if you're baking bread and preparing bread from scratch, as an example, or if you're cooking meats, and of course we deal with concerns about temperature control and the like. So prepackaged is minimal. It's actually a minimal issue when it comes to food facilities based solely on risk assessment.
Brian, do you, for those people that are putting the farmers markets together, of course they'd like no fee, but have you run the $89 by them, and any feedback on that?
I would like to say that my staff have discussed this with some of the people at the farmers markets. Now, they tend to be fairly vocal. They'll come in and speak with us about this. And as a matter of fact, as you're well aware, they've even stated we, wanting to make sure if we're going to charge a fee that we actually come out there. But to answer your question, I believe that staff have actually discussed this fee with them.
Okay, thank you.
Proposed fee. Thank you. Any other questions on environmental health?
Just one question, Brian. This kind of is, the answer might be very obvious, but the $89, that's an annual fee for the inspection of a farmer's market.
Correct.
Is there any latitude in that where we went from zero fee to $89? If they have the same applicant, same location, and they're, for instance, down at the Terrace Shopping Center, they're having a farmer's market down there. It strikes me that there's, I don't know, every Saturday there may be 10 Saturdays in a season. Why not have it be like a 24-month permit or something that would take it through 2 seasons? So if nothing changes, it could be a 2-season permit. Just throwing it out for discussion.
Actually, food facilities are issued permits annually pursuant to the California Health and Safety Code, non-transferable, and therefore need to be renewed annually. So that's a health and safety code as far as a permit issue is concerned.
Okay. I have another one. The on-site sewage?
Yes.
That's an eye-opener. And what's been the feedback?
Actually, overall, on-site sewage, I think, has been very successful. Now, as far as fees are concerned, we haven't had any negative feedback on our fees. What we've done with the on-site program, as the board is well aware, I think we had 1 or 2 or 3 fees when we started. What we've tried to do is hone down as to what the real activities are. Example, you're looking at minor repair, 2 hours, major repair, 4 hours. Depends on how much time the inspector is actually allocated to work on that project. Minor repair, as an example, in the new proposed code that the board will hopefully soon see, would be something that would involve tight lines and maybe replacement of what we call distribution boxes and the like. Major repairs, of course, that you're talking about replacements of entire septic systems. So what we're trying to do, of course, is recapture our time that the staff is actually working on those. The other issue, and I'm not sure, Maria, if this is where you were heading on this, but what we have seen, unfortunately, is a certain amount of illegal installs going in District 3. and these have been reported to us.
I think you meant District 2. He's always telling us.
And actually, that has been actually brought to our attention from residents in District 3. So we are working on that, and we're really trying to discourage illegal installs. And quite honestly, if somebody calls us and they say, we've got an emergency, will you work with us? We, of course, will always work with somebody. We don't want surfacing effluent on the surface of the ground. But the problem we are having is, and to be honest with you, this is probably tied in, at least our conclusion is it's tied in a little bit with the economy, what's happening if we have a residence that is being sold, somebody comes out, looks at it, says, you know, your system is no longer taking water, but we got somebody that can come out here and fix it. And I'm sure and the people actually that have done some of these installs know better. It's not somebody that just is going out there with a shovel. These are contractors, and we've told the contractors, you know, take care of this, take care of the penalties, the existing penalties, and in the future, if you do this again, we're going to be forced to actually turn this over to the Contractor State License Board. We never want to do that, but it usually gets everybody's attention. I think we've had 6 or 7, Marita, within the last couple of months, illegal repairs that have been brought to our attention. There may have been more than that, but that's what's been brought to our attention. Everybody that we have approached has complied, by the way, and without really arguing the points. So that's
if you
actually
have
good.
a minor repair, we're now going to charge $154, where
Correct.
we weren't charging before.
Really what this does is it breaks down, instead of just saying we're going to do a system repair, what we're trying, let's say standard system as an example, existing installation permit for a standard system is $385. If it's a minor repair, we don't need to charge $385 if we estimate it's only going to take us 2 hours to replace a tight line in or a distribution box or what we call an up and over as an example, or an elbow. So what we've actually done is we've, in a sense, reduced that because what we're trying to say is, again, looking at a time allotment, we don't want to charge a full fee if we can actually deal with it in a shorter period of time, like I said, on a simple repair. And we don't want to, the other issue here is we don't want to discourage people from coming in and getting permits for minor repairs especially. Major repairs are easy. It's obvious everybody's doing them. They're doing the profile holes, they're putting entire new leach fields, new septic tanks, new tide lines, etc. The minor repairs are the ones we really don't want to discourage, because if somebody crushes a line and it requires a repair, we want to make sure that that's reasonable. We can get out there, take a look at it, approve it, and move on.
All right, and this would be for what happens in District 2 a lot is roots in the leach lines eventually giving them trouble, and you know, you traditionally, and at least some places I know of, people just bring a roto-rooter. They go rent a rooter system and knock out the roots. So what's that's going to cost now? In your
No, actually, if it's just a roto-rooter kind of thing, that would be something like
that's maintenance.
Roto-rooter would go out and do the work on. What we're talking about is actually removal of pipe and replacement of pipe.
So you have to actually get into the system itself.
That's correct. Now, the thing that's interesting about the root issue, and again, unfortunately, this does tend to be in the Arnold area a lot, and that's well, we've got, it's kind of ironic because we have wonderful soils there, and I know that probably doesn't mean a lot to the board, but we have wonderful soils for absorption of water. The problem is the trees do very well there as well, and of course they're attracted to the effluent and the water. And what will happen a lot of times, from what I've been told from the contractors, is when you're talking about the roots, Steve, in your district, it's not the entire leach line or leach lines that are clogged with roots. It may be the first 10 feet. And the problem is with boring them out doesn't eliminate the problem. They just continue to grow back in. So what will happen is a contractor will tend to go in and say, okay, we need to remove the first distribution box in the first 10 or 15 feet from the leach line and replace it, and that would be a minor repair. So, and like I say, ironically, it tends not to be the entire line. It tends to be just the first few feet, and it knocks down the whole system. So. And we will be looking at that in more detail with the new regulations that I'm working with on the consultants. I know the board's aware of that. We've talked a little bit about that. But it has been I will say this, it actually has been a fun program, so.
Any other questions of Brian?
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
We had some transit issues. Maybe we've got some answers.
We do indeed. The fees in that schedule that you have, just cross them out. They were implemented July 1st.
They
Okay,
were-
there you go. That's
Except for the new fee, and I thought we wiped out the track going to Lodi, but now I see it's in here with a new fee of $3. We no longer go to Lodi as of July 1st, is that correct?
Yeah.
But yes, the fee in here.
Well, that's-
so are we gonna-
Just cross it all.
Cross the
Yeah,
whole
he's
thing
saying
out.
just knock the thing out.
And the student discount was eliminated on a per trip, but the student discount for a monthly fee, or a monthly pass is still there. The monthly pass normally costs $60, student monthly pass is $40. Just want to give that clarification.
So I was right that we don't give a per-trip discount for students? It's
Not a
just
per trip, but a pass there is.
All right, so just to clarify, everything under transit fee revisions, the new fee and the transit fee revisions, we've already dealt with those, so we can take those off the table.
Correct.
Well, while you're still there, Public Works grading, and I wasn't sure what that meant, and for meetings and consultation. But under what conditions? That's,
I believe that fee is... That fee was removed.
both of those?
The meeting fee.
Say again, what was your answer?
The fee for the meetings was removed.
That's one way to
Was
keep
what?
board members out of your office. Sure.
What we'd like to see is that we're not charging.
Okay, and the extension time for a grading permit, if somebody has a permit and they need an extension, you're going to charge them, we're going to charge them $100? There seems, I'm missing something.
If the permit remains active for, I believe it's a year, then we would, when they come in to reactivate the permit rather than drawing a new permit, we just extend the existing one.
Okay, so we had on the agenda today, it wasn't grading, but an
Subdivision.
extension of the subdivision improvement agreement?
That's correct. Subdivision
So,
improvement.
did they have to pay a fee to get that done?
They've paid a lot of fees, and one of the things they've done is bonded for the improvements within the public right-of-way. And those bonds still exist, so there's no liability for the county.
Right, but they didn't pay to get an extension. If they have the right to exercise a one-year extension.
Correct.
So did we charge, and I know it's not quite your area, Mr. Rossi, but did they charge the
Public Works does not-
developer for that?
Public Works does not charge because, again, the improvements that they're proposing on the plans have already been bonded.
So why are we charging, if somebody's entitled to a year's extension, let's say, why are we charging them $100? That's what I'm missing here.
As I understand it, the staff time involved in keeping the permit active, once it's reactivated, there's additional staff time.
I mean, if it lapses and needs to be reactivated, that's one thing, but if they ask for a year's extension on an active permit,
I'm going to have to get additional information, but
Okay.
my understanding is that the permit for grading is valid for a year.
And do we allow an extension on that, like we do for a building permit? So if you pull a permit for grading and a building permit, you're allowed an extension, a year's extension on your building permit. And I don't know if there's a fee for that. I didn't think there was. If there is no extension, if there is no fee or a minimal fee or whatever for building, should that not be the same for grading?
There is a fee for grading. We have to have an inspector go out and verify that the grading was done for the plan. And we're all aware of what happens when it isn't done for the plan or the plan's incorrect.
No, I'm not. But this is for an extension of time for a grading permit. That's what this $100 is for.
That's correct. And that assumes that some work has already been done for the grading permit. And when they come in to extend the permit, that gives us additional time to spend on the inspections and the inspections for the permit.
That one's not clear to me,
Okay.
I guess, because I'm not saying it isn't valid. I'm just saying, and I can get an extension on my building permit for a year, and if I really haven't done anything, can I not get an extension on my grading permit? Because the two usually go together, and if building charges $25 or nothing, should we not charge the same thing? What I'm hearing you say, if they've started work and now they want an extension.
One of the things that has changed in the way we collect fees is we're on a time and materials basis. The existing permits that I believe this is trying to apply to was a one-time fee. And the problem is the one-time fee, they've already paid the fees. If we keep extending it time after time after time, there's no additional fees. They've already paid the fees. Regardless of how much time has been spent on it, any additional work is on our nickel. And what this does is, under the old program, where it isn't on time and materials, if they've already paid their fees to the planning department and we get a portion of that for the grading permit,
right,
we would be able, if it's lapsed several years ago and they keep coming in for extensions on it, we would then be able to pick up recover a portion of our costs for the inspections. That would apply to the flat rate. Under time and materials, it really isn't an issue. So the new permits that are coming in, which are time and materials, when they come in for an inspection, that's fine. We charge them for an inspection. Under the old process, they've already paid their fee. We'll never see anything. It can go on for 5, 6, 7 years, and we'll still be spending time and materials on it and not be able to cover any costs.
Could we not do for grading like we do with building? You can have a one-year extension at zero amount or X amount. I mean, no one's here from building, so they can't answer that. I guess I'm missing the picture here.
Let me get more information on that.
Okay.
It would be nice to have extensions handled similarly across different departmental lines. That's something we're trying to move toward, and I would very much appreciate it if we could be consistent. It gets baffling to people otherwise.
I mean, it might not be, I mean, that's what I thought I was saying, but.
That's exactly
what
I was
and it could be that there's something different, that they started the grading and you're seeing it differently than the building department. I guess I was just looking at it as, I just can't get it done and I need a year's extension. But just a clarification, Mr. Garcia.
We'll work hand in hand with the building department on this.
And then I have just one more. Mental health.
Wait on, while we have, I do have one more for Public Works. I want to understand when you change the name of your road. Obviously, you're moving to time and materials, but you have a significant, I don't know, 500% increase for road. Is that a minimum, and then time and materials could take it way back beyond that, or is that an up to $1,200? I could imagine different situations. Most of the road changes in my district have one intersection and maybe a house or two on it, whereas there are others I could see having several miles and many intersections, and the signage alone costs, quite a bit. What does this $1,200 mean? You put a deposit down and you use it, and then you get a rebate if it's only one intersection? And
unless someone thumps me on the head from the back of the room, I believe that is a flat fee.
That's a flat fee?
Right.
But it says time and materials next to it.
My thump on the head.
There's the thump.
That's the deposit?
It is a deposit, and then we charge against it, and if there's a balance left, you're refunded the money.
And if it goes over that?
Yeah.
Then we would charge you for that.
Okay, so it's not really $1,200, it's just time and materials.
Deposit.
That's the deposit. Got you. All right, that's my question.
And it would depend on the length and the size of the road, amount of people on it.
Yeah, I understand.
Any other questions of Mr. Garcia?
It's okay.
Don't go away just yet. I was shifting papers around here, and I may have not heard your explanation, but can you explain again what this staff time for meetings and consultation at $500?
We removed that.
I just said that I didn't understand what he said. So.
The issue was staff was looking to recoup costs in areas that we seem to have a large outlay of resources. And what's been happening is speculators would come into the office and sit down with us for numerous hours going over potential projects that weren't really real. And they wanted to pretty much pre-engineer a project or precondition a project without having an actual project. And it became a huge draw on staff resources. So staff was looking to recoup some of their costs on these pre-meetings with speculators. And we moved away from that. What we're trying to do now is work in a coordinated fashion with the planning department and make sure that someone who has a proposed project hires the right people to ask the right questions on that project. So if there's an engineer or an architect that has the resources, they can provide that information to their client rather than having the county compete with private industry in providing those services for free. It isn't our core function is to serve the public and not to be an engineer for developers at the public expense. There's a lot of private engineering firms that have that service, and we don't want to be in competition with them.
Okay, so that under a slightly different scenario, if a legitimate developer comes in, pays the fees at planning and pays the fees up front, then it's almost immediately followed by a TAC meeting. Your people's participation in that would be provided for in the existing
Indeed.
fee structure. Okay.
Right. This is before the project is gone through planning, before anyone has a map. They're just seeking information on what we would need to make that project real. And the problem is any advice that we would give them would be considered the conditions on the project, and that isn't where we want to be.
Okay. I can certainly see your point, but I also can see that could be construed as a kind of potentially an arrogant attitude and a disincentive. I mean, if somebody just simply wants to come in and sit down for a few minutes and say, I'm considering doing this, what do you think? And I'd hate to have somebody say, I can't talk to you about that until you write us a check for $500. I mean,
and that's why we eliminated the fee. We don't want to do that. That fee is put a black line through it. We're not
already off the board.
You already said that.
You already said that. We already crossed it off.
okay. I apologize for taking up your time. All right. Any other questions?
I'm stepping away.
Thank you. Stepping away.
Thanks, Tom.
Don't go far.
Let's bring Lori up for animal control.
Okay, I'll bring this issue back to the board for recommendations, decisions.
I have a question of Jeannie. Jeannie, you'll have to, what's a representative payer fee?
Director of
It's
Health Services?
Number 100, mental health, a representative payer fee.
We have people who are unable to take care of their affairs, for which we provide services to them, make sure that their bills are paid, that they are able to live independently with our assistance.
That's the conservatorship, right?
Well, you can have a conservatorship of person or conservatorship of an estate. You can just have a representative payee. It's a lesser legal status than the full conservatorship.
So it was down here under substance abuse.
I don't have what you have. What are they looking at?
Right here. What happened was, once we put the schedule together, we sent it back out to departments to ask if there were corrections, if everything looked okay, what have you. When we got back, there were a few corrections. When I put that in, it just dropped it down the wrong line.
Okay. So
It should be up under new fees, behavioral health, correct?
So
mental health.
you have a conservatorship, I understand that, medical records fee, and a representative, I'm sorry, could you?
A representative payee, it may be somebody who's unable to take care of their financial affairs, and we have staff that work with them to make sure that their bills are paid, that they're able to live independently, but it's a
Different
lesser
kind of
legal status than a full
conservatorship.
conservatorship.
Got it. Okay, I didn't understand that.
We have about 25 people at any given time on rep payee, and usually less than 5 on conservatorship. Right now, just, I think, 1.
Try not to do the full conservatorship route if it's not necessary.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Karen, if I perform a wedding, what are you going to charge me?
Yeah.
Still, that
Costs
hasn't
more to get
changed.
married now, and
Okay.
more to be
Thank you.
confidential about it also, right? No.
Not when you put it that way.
Do you really want me to say?
So I just guess I have to address it, is on animal services, there's substantial, we had a lot of discussion, if I remember, last year about if it would be a disincentive for people to get their licenses and so forth. There doesn't seem to be a big increase in this, and the emails I got said that the Humane Society seems to support this also. Undersheriff?
I'm going to defer that to Lori because I didn't see that email.
I didn't forward it to you.
That's why I didn't see it.
Actually, I didn't see that email either. So.
I got emails saying that they really supported this, and of course they wanted it to take effect immediately, and I said it'd be 30 days. But do you think we're going to have any fallout from doing this?
No, the dog license fee increases are minimal, especially when you compare it to the surrounding counties. We get folks that come in and start griping about having to pay $10 for a license fee, and I have to kind of lighten them and say, hey, just be thankful you don't live down in the Valley of Sacramento. You're paying 4 or 5 times that amount.
If we do, here it is, thank you.
I'd just like to point out also that a significant number of these fees haven't been updated since 1999, so just the cost of doing business, we're just trying to catch up on a lot of these. After that, a significant number of the fees were passed in 2004. Probably about 50% of them actually were in 2004, a few in 2007. This is just catching us up on, our actual cost for doing the work and the supplies that it takes to do some of this, including computer software programs, licensing of those programs, and the maintenance of those programs.
Okay, any other questions here?
No, not for me, for animal services. No,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions on any other items? Okay, do we have any enthusiasm for approving this resolution with the strikeouts, or do we want to have it come back to us next week with the final version?
I'll try a motion. I would move that we approve the proposed changes as amended, and the amended being those that have been removed through staff's comments here this morning. I am for the public works fees on the appliances and yard waste. We know we have now, we've been given significant enough notice that we are in a significant deficit position in the solid waste operating budget. I am always been a very strong advocate of the parcel tax. For all the reasons that Marita and Steve said, is that there's no disincentive then not to go. In fact, there's a strong incentive to take it to the transfer station because you've actually already paid for it in advance. We've always had a trouble with the concept that outside waste is coming in. We've worked hard at trying to control that. I don't know how significantly we've been successful, or whether we've been successful at all. It seems like it's very difficult to judge that. But until we do something about the parcel tax, and quite frankly, I think this is a heck of an environment to ask somebody to increase it in, even though it's been constant since the early 90s, I believe, is when we put it on. So it's probably been 15 years or better since that tax was increased. The other reason I like the parcel tax is it's deductible, and so you have state and federal governments paying a portion of the solid waste fee, which I think is a wonderful idea. But until we come up with a better alternative, I don't think we can just, basically remain in a state of denial. I don't want to go to a gate fee per se at the transfer stations. But if we have some unique services that cost a disproportionate amount of money, then I think we need to do the best we can to address them on an interim basis. I took some appliances to the yard waste facility at Rock Creek, and they wouldn't accept them until I had the stuff removed. And I think, frankly, I think it's wonderful to be able to take it now and just pay $25 and not have to go find a private sector person to do the removal. So I think, if we get the waste facility that'll burn the material, then the question is what's the transportation, and what do we receive back given the additional transportation cost? And I think that Public Works is willing to look at when in fact that becomes operational, and that's fine. But in the interim, I think we should adopt the fees that are before us, with the exception of those that have been withdrawn. So that's my motion.
Well, let's clarify what your motion is on the ones that are withdrawn, because there's been several talked about. You're talking about
the transit fees.
The Public Works, the withdrawal of the $500 deposit for the staff time meetings.
Correct.
What about the $100 for the grading permit that Marina talked about?
Did you withdraw that, or is that still there? My understanding it's still there. That's still there.
So that's still there. So the $500 for the meeting time in Public Works, and then all of the transit fees, including the one-way Lodi transit fee.
Correct.
And that's the extension of them. That's all of them.
Yes, I believe that's it.
Could I,
up if there's something other.
Could I ask the chair to maybe take us through the different items that were objected to by one or another supervisor, and vote those separately, and then vote the total package as a result of a motion after that process has been completed.
Well, I want to be, I want to accommodate your request, but I think that the only thing that's up in the air is to sort of pair up the extension of time for the grading permit with the, whether or not there is a fee for the building permit extension.
Right, there was that, and then the two solid waste.
Public Works can defer that until the next budget cycle. We'll look at how, we'll deal with the planning department and try to get a coordinated fee schedule for these ongoing fees.
For the
grading one.
Extension of time on the grading?
For the department head.
Okay, that's come up, and you said that there was another?
That makes the two solid waste items.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'll second Tom's motion.
I will not be voting for that. I have an issue with the appliances. I have an alternative, and I can't support the yard waste at this time without a significant community discussion.
I'm of similar position, but I am requesting that we separate that out for a vote so that those of us who support the bulk of the other items can go on record as doing so.
I second that request.
Hang on, we have a motion.
That's not a motion.
And a second.
There's a motion and a second. I'm asking for a separation of the vote.
So I just make an amendment to the motions.
All right. Point of order, do we have a motion and a second to approve the fees as presented? We have a request from a supervisor. Let me ask Supervisor Tryon, do you have any objection to approving the virtually 99% of this, and we'll have a future or a subsequent discussion immediately following about the yard waste and the appliance?
Yes, I mean, the way to be of record is to vote no on it. I mean, you've stated your, what's the point of just bringing it back for a second motion?
Well, I can amend your motion, which would take precedent over your motion.
Oh, give me a break.
I amend Supervisor Tryon's motion and eliminate the integrated waste management fee schedule of this.
I don't think that there's, you can't amend without the person's.
If it doesn't pass, then it comes back for another motion.
All right. I agree with Supervisor Tryon. It's not protocol to have somebody to amend an initial.
Supervisor Tryon.
Let's keep one person at a time talking, if at all possible. Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'd like to ask for a vote on that. All in favor of that vote, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, we have 3-2 vote on the motion. The motion prevails. Okay. Let's go to item number 8. This is a discussion and possible action regarding the appointment of applicants to the Board of Equalization Assessment Appeals Board. Do we have staff to explain what's going on here? Is this, okay, Mr. Garcia, did you have a question? Okay.
He started towards Marie.
Towards that way.
Did he want to be on the appeals board? Okay, this item, I think I'll launch into kind of a cumbersome explanation of this. The Board of Supervisors recently voted, let's see, item number 8, that we wanted to appoint a Board of Appeals to either serve in our absence or occasionally the Board of Supervisors has to serve as the members of the Board of Appeals on assessment issues. And so we have this particular item here allows for, and this was approved at a previous meeting, a fee of $40 per member per half a day and $75 per member per full day. We had the initial terms for these proposed members are as follows. Member number 1 will serve for 3 years. Member number 2 will serve for 3. Will serve 3 for 2 years. Member number 2 will serve 3 for 2. That's obviously a typo. Member number 3 will serve for 1 year, and member number 4 will serve for 3 years, and member number 5 will serve for 2 years. We have various applications, one of which was a late arrival. I do not have that particular one with me. Does the clerk have that? I picked it up yesterday, but
the package I have has 4 applicants. Is that?
But there was another one this one.
Well, there was another package.
Where is that?
I give you all in this one.
What?
I didn't get it.
Right here.
Oh, it's on there. It was theoretically on there. Oh, okay.
all right. If there are there any questions before I start reading the names of the applicants?
Mr. Kelly has an application in, and he also has legal action against the county. I think until that is resolved, his application should be considered in the future.
Mr. Sirius, could you give us some guidance on whether Supervisor Callaway has a valid point on this item?
Yes, Mr. Kelly has active litigation against the county. He has a conflict of interest. You cannot select him. At this point, once the litigation is over with, you can defer the application. Once his litigation is completed, you can take up his application again at that time.
Okay. Thank you very much for that clarification.
While we're on the subject, we do have an application of a person who has many fine qualifications, but is also the spouse of our county council, and I'm wondering whether that might have some implications as to conflict, potentially.
We have discussed that because I advised the Board of Equalization. It's one of many situations that it allows, as long as we keep that wall in check and he doesn't advise the board and has no involvement with that board, then there's no conflict.
All right, but there might be a perception if you work for the person whose spouse is on the...
He can't have any involvement with the board. I don't work for Mr. Jones when I serve as the
board.
Yes.
Yes, I do understand that.
It's the same as when the county council's office is represented, the assessor and the board.
No, I understand the relationship. It's just
that's a good point.
I think that public perceptions are important as well as legal boundaries. This clearly doesn't, or at least by our advice, doesn't have a legal boundary, but may have a public perception issue.
Do you want me to?
Do you all have the 5th application?
Yes.
Have you all read the 5th application?
Yes.
Well, I'm in the process of the one we just got, so can you give us just a minute here, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I'd like to give you an opportunity to get familiar with that.
There's 3 members that sit on this board, David.
No, there's 3.
There's 5.
There's 5.
There's 5 selected, 3 will sit at a particular meeting.
Can we reduce it to just 3 and alternates?
No, because you've already passed an ordinance. You've already set that train in motion. If you're going to do anything, you have to blow it all up and start over again.
Suppose we only appoint 3 and not appoint more than 3, or suppose we appoint 4 and not 5.
You could appoint as many right now as you feel are qualified. You don't have to. If one of the applicants was not qualified, you wouldn't have to make the appointment.
David, are there 5 seats on this board?
There's 5 appointments.
So if 3 are appointed and one person doesn't show up, does that mean there's no quorum?
No, that means that the clerk would be calling one of the supervisors to fill in.
Let me ask this then, David. The board has the ability to appoint board members to also sit on this appeals board.
No, that's not how you set up the ordinance. The way it's set up is that you're picking a 5-member civilian board, and if they can't show up or they have an emergency and they can't be there, then the clerk gets to call whoever supervisor she wants, because the clerk has discretion, whoever's available. I don't know if she's going to set up a rotation. That's something that the clerk is going to have to resolve. But right now, the board of supervisors simply is backup to the civilian board.
Supervisor Walensky.
We would have to go back and change the ordinance?
Yes.
That's what you're saying. But we have the ability to do that?
Yes.
Well, as Mr. Sirius is describing it, I don't think it requires any change in the ordinance, because that's the way it's set up. If we selected 4, say we approve all 4 that are in consideration today, that they could have a meeting tomorrow with the minimum of 3.
There could be a meeting tomorrow and only 2 of them are available. That means the clerk's going to have to call one of you.
So there still needs to be 3. There still needs to be 3 people, whether they're civilian representatives or whether they're board members who fill.
Yes.
You still need 3 to make a quorum.
To make that appeal board happen that day and hear those appeals, there's got to be 3 people there.
Okay. Would there ever be an instance where the clerk would call and impanel all 5? Or is it our intent to have the appeals board be simply manned by 3 people out of the 5 that we hope to select?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand the question. Please repeat.
Okay, the usual and customary panel, is it intended to be 3 of the 5?
3 of the 5 per rotation set up by the clerk.
All right. Okay. I understand. Okay, and just to clarify what Supervisor Tryon said, that is the ability for the clerk to call one of us to confirm our availability for
if needed.
If needed. That's the way it's currently standing. We don't
Yes.
need to make any change to implement that. Okay. All right. Does everybody understand that we have 4 applications here? Carol McDaniel, Mr. Larry Hart, Anita Pack, and Guy, is it Puccio?
Yes. I'll make a motion to appoint Mr. Puccio to the 3-year term, Ms. Pack to the 2-year term, Mr. Hart and Ms. McDaniel to the 1-year term.
Can I make it, Maria, can I simplify it? I'd rather you just pick anyone as member 1, pick another one as member 2, the other one is member 3, the other one, if you're going to go to a 4th, member 4.
Thank you.
Because that makes it much easier for the clerk, and makes it much easier for us to keep track of who's who.
I can do that. Mr. Puccio, number 1, Ms. Pack, number 2, Mr. Hart, number 3, Ms. McDaniel, number 4.
Supervisor Walensky, you have a comment?
Yes, in relation to that, as we got a very good description from our assessor, or interim assessor, as to the skills and the different potential areas or backgrounds that we could, and qualifications that we could recruit from, it struck me that it would be very helpful to have a diverse Board of Equalization Appeals group that would have people from each of those areas. And we seem to be heavily weighted in the applications that we have, which are not yet numeric enough, or at least qualified applications that are not numeric enough to appoint a full board. That doesn't reflect the full scope of the backgrounds that we might be seeking. I wonder whether it might be possible, instead of appointing a partial board, that it really is the full team that I'm interested in making sure that it's got the diverse skills necessary, whether we might, instead of appointing just some, that we would move, if it's an option, our decision-making date and the deadline for application back a week or so to see whether other things come through. There's been more interest. This kind of got out a little late, and it wasn't really as thorough. I mean, it was published in the news, but I'm not sure how many people are reading that. But this now has achieved at least enough notoriety in the community, so there seems to be some additional interest, and maybe an extension would allow us to appoint a full and diverse board to these posts.
Mr. Chair, if I might, the clerk and I have a slight disagreement with council, and if you moved this back a week, it would give us a chance to clarify that issue without bringing it out, and certainly a week or two to give additional opportunities for application will not impact the schedule. The next scheduled hearing is October 21st. That would give us plenty of time to still go through board training in advance of the first hearing that this board will actually conduct.
Okay, just a point of order here. Supervisor Callaway has made a motion to accept these. I didn't hear a second.
I would like to make a substitute motion if it's possible, and to see if that gets a second.
No, ask Mr. Tryon.
Just make a new motion.
Well, that one died for lack of a second.
All right, well, it has died.
I know you are.
Okay, the chair entertains a
declaring it a dead motion.
Yes,
that
it is a
event, I
dead
will
motion.
make it one of my own.
Dead on arrival, BOA.
For the BOA.
I move that we extend the application deadline for 2 weeks from today, that we agendize for the third week, hence the appointment process to complete this. So 2 weeks to apply, a week so that we can review the applications, and the third Tuesday from now, we would make the decision and appointments.
Okay, so we'll be extending the deadline to the 15th and voting on it on the 22nd.
That would be correct, and they would be then available well in advance and with some background and training for the October schedule.
All right.
I'll second that, and I have a question.
Okay, the motion and a second on the discussion.
David, if the board, for instance, only appointed 3 people, so the other 2 openings are not filled, if they were to go to then have an appeals board hearing, and one or more of those board members could not be in attendance, then the clerk would call the board, and members of the Board of Supervisors would act then as substitute members. Is that correct?
I haven't read that code section recently, but I think that's how it would work.
Why don't you check that just to clarify it?
It is, as to the intent of my motion, it is specifically designed to avoid just such a situation.
I just want to know how it works if, in fact, we don't make a full appointment. Okay.
All right, we have...
Check on that, David, and maybe let us know next week. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to extend the application period. We'll keep these 4 people in the queue or within the selection process. We'll come back and make a final decision on the 22nd. So all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries on a 5-0. So we'll take this back up on the 22nd. All right, at this point, we have a special board meeting. We will be putting on different hats here. The Board of Supervisors will reconstitute itself at this time as the Board of Equalization. So I'll call that meeting to order. The item here is for the approval of the minutes for the August 18th Board of Equalization hearing.
I move to approve those minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the August 18th Board of Equalization hearing.
Abstaining.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, with one abstention, the motion carries. Okay, do we have any further action for the Board of Equalization this morning? Okay, if not, the Board of Equalization meeting is closed. Coming back to the Board of Supervisors, okay. We have item number 9, the review of correspondence, reports, and various matters of concern. I want to start down with Supervisor Tryon this morning.
I only have one item. I'll be out of county and not able to attend the Council of Governments meeting tomorrow evening, so my alternate, or the board's alternate, needs to be noticed of that. I think it's Steve.
Yes, and I've already received my packet
Okay.
and can make it, and we'll be there for you.
Very good. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Supervisor Walensky.
I have today a mental health board meeting, and even though we seem to have already had it earlier this morning, we'll continue that at 4 today. We have, I'll have the COG meeting on Wednesday evening. What time is that, by the way, Tom?
6:30.
6:30. All right, and I have first 5 board meeting, commission meeting, I should say, on Friday the 4th. And that is all. I do actually want to report on one thing that I caught while driving my daughter back to college this weekend up in Portland. I stopped in Ashland and ran into a couple of people who were coordinating a rather innovative public transit system there. And I would certainly like to describe this in some detail at a later date, but they had actually gotten a Department of Transportation grant that allowed them to purchase a number of vehicles which were being used by all kinds, the same way that you ride a bike and drop it off and the next person can use it. They've got a system for this, which is getting a lot more people moved around for a lot less dollars than anything we've ever thought of here. And it was, while it doesn't substitute entirely for a public transit system, it fills a massive gap that we seem to have developed here in terms of timing and being able to move around. It was fascinating, and the people gave me their contact information, and the leading proponents of this approach that had gotten the funding and had set these programs up in a number of areas in the Pacific Northwest. I think Seattle is one of the places, but Ashland's is the first rural version of the effort, and thought it worth mentioning here. I'll get the COG and Public Works Department the information, and hopefully they can talk with these folks.
Does that conclude your report?
That concludes my remarks, yes.
Okay, Supervisor Toffanelli.
Well, the only thing I have on my calendar is there'll be a teleconference for the Upper Macomb River Watershed Authority tomorrow.
Yes.
At 10 a.m. I'll be in on that at CCWD conference room. And that's all that I have.
I, by the way, neglected to mention that, but I also will be a participant.
Supervisor Callaway.
Oh, conference call, I'm going to do one too, except it's going to be for stimulus funds for the U.S. Forest Service, of which the Arnold Rim Trail will be getting some funds.
All right.
I have Evans Pass Property Owners Council, I have Council of Governments, Area 12 Agency on Aging. Remind people this Saturday is the annual logging jamboree in White Pines. Lilac Park Homeowners Association. I wore this jacket in honor of Woodstock.
Woodstock Week.
It's Woodstock Week. And a Save the Park, we'll know after Labor Day if our parks, well, particularly Big Trees, is saved. There was an item that came up earlier during public comment, and it was asked for someone to yield their time. We don't do that in this boardroom. That's not something that we've done. I'm throwing it out as maybe we would like to look at that. Maybe still keep a cap of 15 minutes or move it to 20 minutes and having yielding of time. I just throw that out as something that we might want to consider. It doesn't happen often, but it has on occasion because some boards do. And so that might be something that this board would, at least let's revisit that item. As Russ said, we need to stay consistent with what we're doing. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Marita, on that, the logging jamboree, what time in the morning does that start?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
10 to about 4, and the Black Irish Band are playing that evening.
And they were looking for supervisors to throw axes and saw logs and compete.
Oh, yeah?
I'm there. I'll be there. I'll do that.
So,
we ought to
volunteer Tom.
Throw axes.
We could do that.
Okay.
Log rolling.
I'll throw them if Marita will catch them.
If that concludes your report, then I have a number of things I'd like to bring up this morning. I went in fairly recently in the last week and a half to talk to Mr. Lawton about he's been here with us for a good long time now, and we need to address the issue of an evaluation. Mr. Lawton made a suggestion about, you may want to expand on this, but there's a methodology. It's called a 360. Is that right? A 360 type of an evaluation where it's a fairly comprehensive evaluation that involves some computer facilitated things where people can log in on it. And I went to the website, but can you expand on what we talked about?
Well, it's a fairly frequently used methodology for positions like department head or county administrator in the public sector. And there are a number of different places that provide it. The International City County Management offers one. There are certainly other private firms. You can have as many as 25 or 30 people participate. It would include board members, department heads, staff. Their individual participation would be anonymous. Results would be generated from the statements and the grading. Then that document could come back to the board for its use in performing its evaluation. It's not an evaluation all by itself, but it can be an important tool for a board of directors or board of supervisors or a city council in performing that evaluation. But each of you also has your own criteria, your own expectations of the office and your own point of view. This is a way to make sure that you've had the chance to see what one's peers or one's colleagues or one's superiors or one's subordinates also think about that person, hence the notion of a 360-degree evaluation rather than just the people to whom one reports being the ones who discuss and exchange the information.
Supervisor Walensky.
I'd like to comment on that. I'm familiar with the approach, and I think that as a way of gaining a necessary body of information and feedback for the people who ultimately have to are responsible for this, I think that's a great method and that we should employ it. Ultimately, I think the responsibility rests with the 5 of us, but I really think that that's a good phase or a good stage in that review process and should inform it well. So I hope that could be implemented.
Okay, so Supervisor Tran.
It would seem to me that we should meet as a board and discuss this and that and any other ideas that board members or staff has, but I think we should just, I think like next week we should study a closed session and then figure out the methodology we wish to go through and how we wish to proceed with the evaluation.
I would ask County Council whether the methodology is a public matter or because we're talking about an evaluation or evaluations in general.
I think the results would be, but just discussing the use of it is really not covered.
It should be a public discussion then in terms of the methods.
Well, the method is a component of the evaluation, which is a closed session item, is it not?
Well, you have to define what you're trying to do. Are you just discussing whether you want to use a particular software or whether you want to use a particular methodology to evaluate?
Well, I would just like to have a closed session with the board and have that discussed so we know what we are, in fact, going to do.
I think if you're going to discuss it, as it relates to one individual, you might be able to, but if you're just generically discussing it to apply across the board.
We're just doing it for one individual at this point. I don't, I'm not saying let's do this for every department head in the county. For one thing, I want to know how much time and how much energy is involved and how much time we're going to tie up department heads and the like. So I think we just need to have a discussion as a board before we decide something.
Unless you're going to tie it to one individual, you got to have it in open session.
Well, it is. It's tied to the CAO. It's tied to one individual at this point. That's what we would be having a closed session on.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. Unless you're going to, I misspoke. If you're going to use, deciding whether you want to use this for one individual, and you're not going to utilize this across the board, you just want to use it to discuss one particular individual, yes, you could probably do that in a closed session, but not if you're going to make a decision whether to make a global implementation of this for all kinds of departments.
That wouldn't be on the agenda. It would just be an evaluation of the CAO.
Okay. I, for one, have no objection to discussing this in closed session. It is for the specific purpose of the evaluation of Supervisor Lawton. I'd like to poll the board on their sentiments. Supervisor Callaway?
Yes.
Yes.
Close.
Supervisor Walensky?
As long as this is specific to the evaluation
technique.
I can support that, although I have some reservations about the discussion of methodologies and process even with one person.
I mean, who knows what the board will decide? I mean, you have to have the discussion before you...
Okay.
Well, I don't mind if we decide on a methodology or then, in public session say this is the methodology we're using. That's fine.
All right. Well, I certainly think that on that topic, on the question, my support of it is contingent on at least reporting out the method aspect.
With how we're going about it or something, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I also am for a closed session, and so maybe you could schedule it for next week so we can at least figure out where we're going with it.
Okay. Mr. Sirius, could you make sure that gets on the schedule, please? Okay. That concludes that topic for this morning. The other thing I would like to also request a fairly immediate insertion on maybe the next board meeting. If you recall the issue of Mr. Sarasi and his issue of the pool in the public right-of-way, we continued that pending he was given instructions to produce structural evaluation of that portion of the construction that took place in the public right-of-way. He's done that. The planning department was reluctant to take money or process a building permit for that wall until we agendize and review that and make a determination on it. So we just have to bring that back. And so could, Mr. Lawton, could you be in charge of getting that back on? Okay, there's another thing that has come to my attention that I wanted to share with you, and I want to, I'm not asking for a vote on this, but just I'd like to see if anybody has any objections. This concerns a letter that I would like to draft and hopefully get the board's, everybody weighing in on this. This concerns Rochelle Chong, and she is a local representative on the California Public Utilities Commission. Ms. Chong is up for reappointment, and so some people that are endorsing her reappointment have been looking for letters of recommendation, and the distinction that she has brought to our area lately is that she was instrumental in getting a large grant that has come to the Motherlode Internet and the Golden State Cellular for the purpose of expanding broadband in this area. She's very, I don't know, she has long been, she's previously been on the Federal Communications Commission. She's a lawyer from Stockton, and frankly, my feeling is that she has demonstrated her ability to help out our area in the realm of communications. So I'd like, I have been slapped on the wrist more than once for acting on things like this without the seal of approval from the other board members. But does anybody have any objection to me making a letter that it would go to Senator Steinberg, who his committee is making these reappointments? Does anybody have any knowledge of Chong?
Where does she stand on smart meters?
I mean, I don't know anything about it. You know, my suggestion is why don't you check with CSAC and RCRC and see if some of those folks have a comment about, you know, does she represent rural interest? Does she, you know, how's she doing? I mean, I have no idea. I've not heard her name mentioned and don't know her.
Okay, well, there's a little profile here that I
well, at this point, I would have to express the same ignorance that Tom just did in terms of the person, but I certainly have no objection to your writing a letter that is your own view, and you are the board chair, so I'm not, but I do not think that I'm prepared to express anything, even from a one-page summary. I would want to know more before putting my name on that.
She's the current chairperson of the Emerging Technologies Fund, that California Emergency Technologies Fund. Anyway, she's very much a friend to rural interests. So, anyway, that concludes my comments for today, and we are now going into a closed session. This is the one about the conference with labor negotiator with the SEIU, and also about some issues concerning Michael and Michelle Nemi. So with that, this meeting is adjourned for today. Thank all of you for coming.
Study sessions, so why don't we take a lunch break?